continuing section 6.5, this video part 2. Let's say I want to take x cubed minus 2 and divide it by x minus 1. So, the tricky thing about this is you've got a bunch of missing terms in your dividend, the thing up top there. So what I have to do is I have to make sure I fill those missing terms in with zeros. So this is x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 2. Those are like placeholders. It's like if I want to write 101, I just can't write two ones up there. I've got to have a 0 in the tens place. It's the same thing here, except I've got an x squared place, and I got an x place that I got to have zeros in. All right. So at this point, again, I'm going to look at x. I'm going to look at x cubed. I'm going to say, okay, what do I have to multiply x by to get x cubed? The answer, of course, would be x squared. I'm going to write that here. So I'm going to say x squared times x minus 1. That would, of course, be x cubed minus x squared. Change the signs and add. Notice I get x squared. I can bring down my plus 0x. And then I continue the process. So I look at x. And I look at x squared. And I say, okay, what do I have to multiply x by to get x squared? The answer, of course, would be x. So this is plus, whoa. Come on, blue marker, work with me here. There we go. Plus x. So then I have x times x minus 1, which would give me x squared minus x. Change the signs, add. Why don't you want to work? Forget the blue marker. All right, so switching back to green. So this is x. So I look at x, and I realize that I have to multiply by 1 to get that, so plus 1. Oh, I got this minus 2 here. 1 times x minus 1 is just going to be x minus 1. So at that point, change the signs, I get negative 1. At this point, that would be my remainder, so I could put plus negative 1 over x minus 1. And some of you might be thinking, well, Mr. Walsh, why didn't you put minus instead of plus and just make that 1 positive? The reason why is because if you've got more than one term up there, a lot of kids will make sign mistakes on that. You have to be very careful. Okay? So, in order to be careful, I always put plus there, and then I just make the numerator whatever the remainder is. Okay. Let's say I've got x to the 4th plus 6x cubed plus 6x squared minus 10x minus 3 divided by x squared plus 2x minus 3. So notice that my divisor here is a bit more complicated, but the procedure is still the same. So I'm going to have x to the 4th plus 6x cubed plus 6x squared minus 10x minus 3. Then I'm going to have x squared plus 2x minus 3 out there. Okay, let's try to write this maybe a little smaller so I can fit stuff in. So, again, we look at this x squared here, whoops, and we look at this x to the 4th, and I say to myself, okay, what do I have to multiply x squared by to get x to the 4th? And the answer to that would, of course, be x squared. So I put x squared here. X squared times x squared plus 2x minus 3 would be x to the fourth plus 2x cubed minus 3x squared. Change the signs, add, this goes away, this would be 4x cubed plus 9x squared, bring the next term down, minus 10x. What would I have to multiply x squared by to get 4x cubed? That would be 4x. So plus 4x times x squared plus 2x minus 3. That would be 4x cubed plus 8x squared, and then minus 12x when I distribute. Change all the signs, add. That goes away. That makes x squared plus 2x and minus 3. Sorry. Once again, I'll look at x squared and I say, okay, what do I have to multiply x squared by to get x squared? And the answer is 1. So this is plus 1. I'm not even going to write it out because all I got to do is rewrite this. X squared plus 2x minus 3. Change all the signs, add, and you get 0. So what that means is that x squared plus 2x minus 3 actually divides evenly into this thing, so that this right here is my answer and there's no remainder. Well, that's pretty cool. All right. Now, the assignment that goes with this part is page 413, 16 through 20, 34 through 36, and 46 through 48. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is what's called synthetic division. And synthetic division can only be done if the divisor is of the form x minus k or x plus k, where k is some number. Okay? Okay. So, observe that I could not have done synthetic division on this problem here because the divisor isn't x plus a number or x minus a number. But I could have done synthetic division here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you side by side here to show you how this would work. So what we're going to do, since this right here is x minus 1, we're going to change the sign on that. And the reason why we're going to change the sign on that 1 is because remember, we changed all the signs on all these throughout when we were subtracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it this way. So same problem. I'm going to put a positive 1 here because, again, you changed the sign on that negative 1 from the denominator. Then I'm going to put just the coefficients of the numerator up there, the dividend, if you will. So that's 1x cubed, 0x squared, 0x, and I think it's minus 2, isn't it? Minus 2. And if it helps, label this. This is x cubed, this is x squared, this is x, and this is your constant. And whenever you do this, you always have to have one more number than the degree. So since this is degree 3, because you've got an x cubed here, you should have 4 numbers going across here. Now, the first thing that you do is you bring down this first 1 here. So you bring down your first number. Essentially, that is part of this piece up here. It's just going to collapse down on itself. So what then you would do is, so first you bring down this, and then 1 times 1 is 1. And then you add going down. 0 plus 1 is 1. And the 1 that you're multiplying by is this one right here. So if that had been a 2, this right here would have been 1 times 2, which would have been 2. 0 plus 2 would have been 2, and then 2 times 2 would have been 4 for that spot right there. But this is a 1, so it doesn't really affect anything. So 1 times 1 is 1, add. 1 times 1 is 1, add. And then this is your answer. But your answer has to mean something. I always put a little box here to remind myself that this right here is the remainder. Now, there are 2 schools of thought to come up with this answer. The first school of thought is when you do synthetic division, it always drops the power by 1. So if this one originally started out with x cubed, this one's going to start off with x squared. So this would be 1x squared plus x plus 1 plus negative 1 over x minus 1, which is the exact same answer I got over there. Okay? The reason why you can do that is because basically all these numbers that are written are also written as numbers in this big problem over here. It has to do with the fact that when you're dividing by a single x like that, it was very simple to come up with the numbers to multiply by. Now, if you didn't like the whole drops the power by 1 thing, you could count backwards. Let me move this. So if this is your remainder, that means that that's your constant, which means that that's your x, which means that that's your x squared. So you can keep track of what your answer actually means that way. And you will need to know these things. Okay? I'm not just going to take an answer or just the numbers. It's got to mean something. All right, let's try another one. Oh. So let's consider this problem that I just wrote while I had it paused. So if I want to do this problem, I've got x minus 2, so I'm going to put a 2 right here. And then I'm going to write the coefficients going across the top. So that's x cubed, x squared, x, and my constant. Notice I've got 4 numbers. This is x cubed, so it should have 4 numbers. So I've got all my numbers there. I don't have to worry about any missing zeros. All right. So first thing I do when I work this problem is I bring down the 1. Then this 1 times this 2. Okay, so basically that 2 paired with that, wow, that 1 right there. I'm going to multiply those together, and that's going to give me 2 here. Then I'm going to add. 3 plus 2 is 5. Then this 2 here, still this 2 right here. I'm going to take that 2, I'm going to multiply it by this 5 here, and put the number right there. So 2 times 5 would be 10. Add, I get 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Add, I get 2. That's my remainder. And so whatever method you use to get this, the answer would be x squared plus 5x plus 6 plus 2 over x minus 2.